Lesson number 3 in Rich Dad, Poor Dad begins with a story about a friend of mine, Keith Cunningham, when he was at the University of Texas for his MBA program, and they had Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, come to teach or talk to the class. And after the class was over, Ray and the class went out to a local pizza parlor, and they were talking about business. And during this pizza and beer session, Ray Kroc stood in front of the group and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, what business do you think I'm in?" And everybody laughed and say, "Well, Ray, everybody knows that you're McDonald's. You're the founder of it. And we know you're in the hamburger business." And Ray Kroc said, "No, I'm not." He says, my business is real estate." And that comes up to lesson number 3 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is the importance of minding your own business. The problem with most people is that they make the mistake of not knowing which business they're in, and what they're doing is minding everybody else's business instead of their own. So, again, looking at the financial statements, if you look at it from the point of view of income and expenses, what we have here is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. In other words, the money comes in from their job, money comes in and money goes out. So you look at that and say, okay, that person, if they don't change their cash flow pattern for the rest of their lives, they'll probably be poor, no matter how much money they make. You can make a lot of money, but if it all goes out, you'll wind up poor anyway. This here is a cash flow pattern of a middle-class person. In other words, what they're doing is they have all of this debt over here, or liabilities, and every month, whether you like it or not, it goes straight out. And this here is the cash flow pattern of a rich person. In other words, income is coming from the asset column. And what my rich dad taught me at a very early age is that this here, regardless if you're the president of a company or a janitor, this here is your business. In other words, your asset column is your business. And what you really do have to know is the difference between assets and liabilities. And what most people are doing is, like I said earlier, they're buying liabilities they think are assets because the cash is going out of their pocket. And so Rich Dad told me at a very early age, he says, "Son, you've got to mind your own business. When you're over here on a job where your income is coming in, most of the time what you're doing is you're minding your boss's business over here. You're working hard for the boss or the employer, whatever the case is. Over here, your first line item expense for most people is a word called taxes. And over here, you're working very hard minding the government's business. And for all those credit card debts, mortgages, car payments, etc., school loans, what you're working really hard doing is minding the bank's business. So the most important thing a person needs to do is stop. It's okay to mind other people's business, but as Rich Dad said, you also have to mind your own business, which is the asset column. So one of the most important lessons of lesson 3 is that this here is your business. And so what a person really does need to learn how to do if they want to become financially free or maybe become rich is learn how to be a business owner and investor and mind this part of the financial statement. Again, from this board game Cash Flow, I have here a blow-up or a large large copy of the actual income statement and balance sheet from the board game Cash Flow. The reason we made it a board game is because we wanted people to have fun learning this process. When I look at a person's financial statement, just as I look at this here, I can tell within a split second whether the person's going to be rich, poor, or middle class for the rest of their lives. By looking at a financial statement, looking at the X-ray of an individual. A poor person or a middle class person will always think that right here, they think the salary is the most important part of getting rich. But as we all know, just because you work hard and make a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean you're rich. Another thing that middle class or my poor dad really thought was important was to have a big house. So when I look at a poor person, a middle class person's financial statement, generally what they have here is they have salary or high paying job, which is the ideal, and they have a large mortgage over here. But it doesn't mean you're rich. As we all know, just because a person has a big house and a nice car doesn't mean they're rich. By looking at a financial statement, I can tell immediately a rich person from a middle class person because a rich person will have a lot of activity right here. And the reason I know it's an asset is because it'll show up right here. So when I look at a person's financials, I can tell immediately whether they're going to be rich, poor, middle class by looking right here. This here is income from true assets over here. The reason my wife and I could retire is because we had income here and not a high-paying salary. This over here, as I said in lesson number 1, is passive income and portfolio income, and that's what makes you really rich. So I'm not saying to quit your job or do anything silly like that. All I'm saying here is this. If you look at the cash flow quadrant, which is this book here, and I wrote this book for anybody who's looking to make a change in their lives. If you look at it this way, employee, self-employed, or small business owner, investor, what I recommend to people is keep your daytime job. Keep it. But what you can do is start a part-time business over here. If you notice, most of the multi-billionaires today, like Michael Dell, he was a student at University of Texas, but he started a part-time business. The same as Jeff Bezos of Amazon.com. I don't know what he was doing prior to that, but he started his business in a garage, the same as Apple Computers did, as well as Hewlett-Packard. So if you want to be wealthy, one of the most important things you need to do is learn how to read financial statements, understand how investing works, acquire assets that put income in your pocket, and most importantly, mind your own business.